Hi, this is Michael, and welcome to week two. Just a quick overview. So, every week I want to do a little bit of a video introduction just to make sure there's kind of an easier, sometimes easy way to just talk about what happened last week, maybe a little bit of introduction to this week. So, these won't be very long, but hopefully they're useful to you to just feel like you're knowing where we're going. And if we need to, we can do an in-person meeting, and let me know if that's going to be helpful to you. Got a great uh, bunch of conversation happening last week. Got to meet each of you and hear your thoughts about different things, so couldn't be better. Really enjoyed it. I can see all of you have some empathy and understanding of kind of the goals that we're trying to reach, even these very lofty goals, as McManus and Weinberger kind of laid out. Those are the loftiest you can get, right? These are really big picture questions, and I wanted you to keep your mind on that as we get into the nitty gritty of how do you do it. One thing I think I mentioned from our meeting was, how do you participate in mural? So just at a big overview here, you can see a lot of you have tried different techniques and to both align and to differentiate yourself. I've started to see how you've put your name in front of these. That is fantastic. Although I will say, if you're interested, it will let you know by just clicking here, or you can come up here and you can actually look at a history of things if you're actually interested in catching up. So that is, again, a meta part of this. How does Mural help organize information that it doesn't really understand what you're doing, but it's going to try? So I will say having 10 people starts to create that tension around size, and as well as a certain, like, you can't really write that much. And hopefully as we move forward, we'll start to figure out different ways to compartmentalize long, short, and so forth. And believe me, it's all part of the goal to get you to do, understand, and then change maybe some of your techniques based on what you've learned. So all went really well. All the insights were great. For this week, another thing, today is Wednesday. Just to reiterate, everything should be done by Monday, and if any conversation happens on a Monday or even on a Sunday, I'll probably not participate too much. It's usually more for you all to react to what's happening and what's going on in some ways and help each other if possible. And you don't have to feel obligated to comment or anything unless you feel as though there's something that you really can add to the discussion. Week two is going to be our first challenge because we need to get some data. And I mentioned earlier, hopefully we'll make this as painless as possible, but it might be a little bit tricky for many of you, and I understand that. Please do go in. I did my very best to write up all what I could think of to help in terms of both this and the assignment that's due at the end of the week. And the end of the week, remember, is Monday. So I also adjusted a lot of our dates and times to make it a little bit clearer about when things are due. So just to reiterate, there's really nothing. You can kind of wrap things up or submit things on Monday. And by the way, I might be bearing the lead. One thing about submission is whenever you submit anything like an assignment, you will do it here in Canvas, and it should be here under assignments, and you will usually just have a URL. So even if you're sharing something on Mural, that is not a submission. That's just a, hey, take a look, and you can change that submission, delete it, do anything you want to it, really. That's just an iterative place where we can share. So make sure to go through everything, go into the data project. I also try to do my best to explain what we're looking for, and hopefully that all helps. So that being said, if we get into the exercises this week, there are two real things under the hood that you might want to explore. At the end, you'll have a table of data, and that's going to be important to share, and we can take a look at good and bad data sources, maybe something helpful that I think is going to work for the long term for this course, or some things that might need to be adjusted. We can talk about that. I did a new tutorial. Let's see, if you went up here, I believe this is the old tutorial with import.io. Maybe still useful just to see. I'm sharing my journey here, which is I wanted to understand these ingredients. The data on the site wasn't very helpful, and I'm trying to figure out what's a better way to explore this kind of data, which is perfume ingredients. Now, because import.io is not available, I did another based on these two or some of these web scraping tools if you wish to web scrape. My point still is start with Airtable. Start with it, but it doesn't have to end with Airtable. It's just an example, and the goal here is just to get a data model to work with that you can add to, subtract from, do anything you wish with. If you want to do the scraping, of course, give it a try. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a whole different thing, but it does let you see behind the scenes as to how websites are built on all this repetition. And then thirdly, a realization I want you to make is what maybe your data consists of one field that's really interesting, such as whatever, it's readable, it's understandable. Maybe it's a header, meaning it's a topic. Maybe you've got some ways to organize it already, meaning things like categories. Don't worry about that. If you don't have them, we will build them as we move on. But the best source of data I can think of that's completely kind of the wild, wild west is Twitter. So the point here is Twitter is not just the tweet, and the tweet has some tricks to it that you might have heard of, and we will get into in a few weeks as to how you actually probably find things on Twitter. But I do want you to have some awareness of the other fields, such as date, time, location. These are fields that in your database that you come up with down here can become very useful. So it's a little bit of an awareness that even in a table, the supporting data fields are actually very helpful and useful in organization. And if you don't understand them or they don't exist, you may need to invent them. So this exercise is to try to not go straight into the tweet itself. And by the way, thank you for people who have already contributed to week 2. Just to let you know, week 2 actually begins today, so they're way ahead of the game. No problem there, but it's okay to wait until the week starts to contribute if you want feedback. But again, there's no problem with that. So as I said, this is about filtering using this data and kind of understanding this other data that might help you realize how the actual payload, meaning that tweet or the actual wording, etc., or the person who made it, become important to give a lot more robustness to the data that you've got to organize. And it's something that they use quite a bit. So Twitter, believe me, is very aware of these fields. Here's another example, just to let you know about a MP3 file or a music file. All these attributes are really helpful in organization. So you can see the data model is pretty big. So both of these are an exploration of, well, what's a data model and how do I use it to come up with something interesting? So explore that, have fun with it. Once you've come up with a beginning of what you think might be a good data set, you're welcome to share it. I'm happy to give some feedback. Others can give feedback too about what's good and bad about it. And at the end of the week, you'll submit that URL to the assignment. So I did a lot of explaining. That doesn't mean you shouldn't read me explain it in more detail and probably a little less conversationally. So please take a look at this stuff and we will begin our exploration to find data. Thanks.